Sapellum Cardew, finishing touches. Hi, it's me, Gillen. Gillen's got Parkinson's. I'm going to try to make this sort of succinct. I don't want to be all boring, but I want to show you part of what I do, so you know what I do. And the aim is to prove to you, show you that even with physical disabilities, you can paint. You might not be able to paint museum quality. You might not be winning any awards, but you can paint to a standard that makes you feel proud and happy and gives you a lovely warm glow. So I'm going to show you little bits like this, Sapellum, and talk about what's wrong, and then I'm going to work on that bit without showing you because it's boring. And what I have to hold the stand really tight and close, and I can't film that at the same time because I've got to concentrate on one thing. So you're going to end up, as we've done in the past, with a lot of blank shots of ceilings or my ear roll or something, which is rubbish. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it, then I'm going to show you, then I'm going to do the next bit, okay? So, first of all, I'll start at the top, work down, I'm going to do the wig. And you can see from the picture there are several areas where I have blobbed from what I was trying to do onto the wig. The most notable being a bit of blue ribbon from his fronty bit has gone on his head. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to now try to highlight and improve what I've done. So, a quick recap. I undercoated it black, primed it black, went over it with a dark grey, went over it again with a medium grey, not filling in all the gaps. Then I did it white. Then I inked it with Citadel Colour Contrast Rattling Grime, and that's what you can see now. And now I am going to go at it with a very tiny brush, and I'm going to tackle it with the white. So I've done the white, and I like the effect. I've sort of made sure the very tips are white and the edges, but I haven't worried about covering all of it. I don't want it to all be white. I want it to have all of the different colours and shades and tones and shadows and dirt that you might find in the character of this period. So the next one I'm going to do is the blue, and I'm going to use the palest blue. I've done the dark blue, I've done the medium blue, I've done the medium ink, and now I'm going to use Toon Blue Light. And again, I'm just going to pick edges of things. I'm not going to try and paint the whole thing, just little edges. So, I've done the very light blue. You can still see dark showing through. You can still see ink showing through. So that's fine. That's what I wanted. I'm going to go back to the face now with a very, very, very light flesh, and I'm going to look for mistakes, and I'm going to make it look as if the light is just hitting a bridge of nose, tops of cheeks, things like that. And again, to be totally honest, what I've done, so you know, is in places like every now and again I'll put a blob, and I mean a blob, of the Citadel Reichland flesh shade, and then I dry my brush and I take from that instead of from the paint, and I draw it across areas that are perhaps too bright. So on the forehead, the very pale line upon the forehead was too thick, so I just pulled a little bit out of the eye and dragged it across. And so I go back to the oil every now and again, to the ink wash, and I have a little fiddle with that. I'm going to do the hands now, and fingers and thumbs. I tend, if possible, to only try at this stage to put the tiniest little dots on the ends of thumbs, fingers, and possibly across the backs of hands. Just swipe down, because by this time really the hard work and all the different patterns on the flesh tones should be done. By the time I get to the weapons, I may well use ink again, and I might take some of that ink and then put that onto the hands. I'm going to do the weapons now, and I have a little formula. It's not a formula really, but if it's someone, a guard, high class, high status, I give them a very bright, shiny sword, almost silver, with an ornate handle. If it's an ordinary fella, I give him gunmetal. So if it's fantasy, elves would have really silver and gold swords. Dwarfs would have gunmetal, solid iron looking colours. And orcs and goblins tend to have rusty weapons. So same on these chaps. I'm going to put the sort of chosen band are going to have decent good weapons. This fella has got an expensive sword, and so it's going to be very bright. And then the odds and sods are going to have pointy things that are tied to sticks, and they're going to have things that are all rusty. So I'm going to do Sir Pelham's expensive sword. So now I've put a bit more, well, I've put a lot of detail now onto the weapons. I put on the sword, there's a lot more colour than one might imagine. So I've put gunmetal down, and then along the sharp edge here is white to give it, and it gives that sort of flash. That's a sharper edge. I've used ink in here, which has now been moved up. I've got ink around these areas of the hilt. The hilt is what's Foundry calls shiny. 36C is the code. But the other metal I've used is Citadel colour base Screaming Bell. That sort of coppery colour. And then again, inks. You know those areas sometimes you think, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely something. And I may well go back. There's a tiny little 0.5 millimetre there of sort of bronze onto this shiny colour. I think I'm going to do something with that, even though it's only going to be a little touch of a brush. I am going to do something with it. Now I'm going to do the linen coat, which raw linen, which is underneath the blue and between the blue ribbons and the yellow. And I've neglected that bit. That's still the darkest of them. I've got a middle one and a lighter one to put on yet, because if I could paint as well as I would like, I'd put lots of tiny little embroidered flowers in pinks and yellows on that. I don't think that's going to be it's going to be a good idea. Might have been years ago. One day when I feel like showing off, I'll maybe let you have a look at the oriental figures I did when I, oh God, how old am I? 40 years ago, for a museum, but it feels wrong within the context of what I'm doing now to show you that. Anyway, so I'm going to do this. This is the medium linen. So that's the medium linen done. Don't know how much difference you can see, but there is some. Trust me, I used to be a teacher. So now I've added the lightest of the linen, but you can clearly see from that close-up that I've only done the very edges and the tops of the pockets. That's deliberate to cause an optical illusion where your eye sees more than I've just done. You see what I have encouraged you to see. And if I go that way, you will notice that those edges and pockets are there if you look for them, but that's not really what you're seeing. What you're seeing is a whole figure. So the next thing now is to do the lightest of the yellow, which is, to be honest, where the majority of the mistakes are. So I've placed him with his back to us this time because I think that shows the yellow coat more effectively than the sides and the front. The red trousers, I'm not going to do anything to, because the ink wash did a really good job on that deep red colour. And so I like that. So what I am going to do next is like green gaiters. So really, the main things I've got to do now are the buttons, which I'll do with a dot of gold and a dot of black, I apologise, and there's gold on top, and the shoe buckles, and then the light leather, which will just be touching the toes. Then I'll put a stand on him. And there, for all his glory, is the finished model. I put the buckles on, I put some tiny little gold buttons. I've actually tried to separate the darkness of the hand from the cuff with what I perceive to be a lace sleeve. I put a little bit of colour in here and inked it where the pistols are all been put together. I did a little flash of light leather on the edge of the shoe. Basing figures is something I think a lot of us, and I include myself in that in the past, ignore. It tends to, we end up, if we're not careful, of saying, well, let's paint them, whack them on the table, have a game. As I realised that I had more figures and projects than I'd ever complete in a lifetime, my space was diminishing. I was downsizing, as we say. I decided what I'd do is get rid of all the surplus things and use that money in other ways for the game, setting up YouTube as it turned out, but I didn't know that. And then what I do is I go back, let's find an old river, let's find 5-6 figures and work on the bases, touch them up, give them little patches, do things that should have been done at the start. And so now whenever I finish a figure, and to be honest, the more important the figure, the more effort I put into the base, they get a base. You've got to I think about the bases. So Sir Pelham is going to be a pirate. He's not going to be in cities and towns. Most of the games that we play are not going to be on board ship. So It's not. I don't want the base to be sort of planks of a ship. And I went for generally a pretty sandy, rocky, barren. So, not quite a desert, but a bit. Could be anywhere. Could be Japan. Could be India. Could be the edges of sand dunes. It's a bit nondescript. I suppose I should turn him round, shouldn't I? Let me see. The side there. And perhaps you can hopefully tell how much effort went into the sword. I also now spend a lot more time on a figure. It's taken me as long to paint him, pretty much an 8-hour, 9-hour day. I used to paint, 30, 50 figures in that amount of time, in a standard where they could go on a table and fight, and they were far better than he is. But that was then, this is now. So you've got to enjoy what you've got, and I enjoy solving the problem of this being tricky, and I enjoy talking to you about it, and I hope perhaps somebody out there enjoys it too. Anyway, keep gaming, gang, and you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Ta-da, Chuck!